When it comes to weird and wonderful aircraft, the United States do it better than anybody else in the world. From the World War II era flying pancake to vertical takeoff and landing propeller planes to the pregnant guppy, the flying chainsaw, the diagonal wing AD-1, and even the very first wooden cloth contraption that paved the way for all the rest, the United States of America has put some positively wacky stuff in the sky. In the modern day, America's flown everything from the tailless X-36 and Manta to the winged Speedhawk helicopter to the needle-thin Quest and more. But there is one exceptionally strange aircraft flying above the United States that somehow escaped the world's notice despite being the kind of invention that can never be unseen once you've gazed upon its strange glory. Its name is the RAT. More precisely, the RAT-55, and it's an enigma even within the arsenal of the US Air Force. Nobody knows where it's based, nobody knows quite what it does, and nobody's ever shared what it looks like on the inside. But we know it's in active service, we know it's one of a kind, and judging by both when and where it shows up, we can take a reasonable guess that it's involved in some of the most important projects of the US military. So in today's episode, we're going to channel our inner Michael Scott and confront RAT-55 with the question,
why are you the way that you are?
Why are you the way that you are? Just before we continue, a quick word from our sponsor Surfshark. Tired of spam calls and sketchy texts? Well, every time you share your real phone number online, you're opening the door to scammers, robocalls, and endless spam. With Surfshark's alternative number, you get a virtual US phone number that keeps your real one private. Use it for online shopping, sign-ups, deliveries, dating apps, anywhere you don't want to hand over your actual number. And if spam starts coming in, just change it. No hassle, no risk, no unwanted calls. Right now, get an alternate number plus 4 extra months of Surfshark at surfshark.com/altmega. Stay private, stay protected. Surfshark's brilliant. Check it out today. And now back to today's episode. It's about as elusive a beast as one could possibly hope to track down in the great big world that is the US defense industry. But there are a few key things that we know for certain about the aircraft flying under the call sign RAT-55. The base aircraft is a Boeing 737-200 variant of the 737 jetliner that first entered commercial service under the -200 marker in 1968. It flies under the auspices of the US Air Force with a serial number 731155, and it's been observed operating at or around both Area 51, the highly classified Air Force facility in the Mojave Desert, and the Tonopah Test Range, otherwise designated Area 52, about 70 miles or 110 kilometers away from Area 51. We know that RAT-55 can fly. We're reasonably confident that it's got people on board when it does, and sometimes it flies accompanying America's vaunted B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. Officially, it's classed within the Air Force's registry as the NT-43A, the only aircraft of its kind. And thanks to a small handful of clear images of RAT-55 circulating in the public domain, we know of this extensively modified jetliner's unforgettable appearance. Affixed to the front of the aircraft is a gigantic, bulbous radome, sticking out like an extra-long nose well ahead of the cockpit. Large air data sensors stretch backward from the radome past the cockpit, nearly to the aircraft door. At the very rear of the plane is another radome, this one seemingly even longer, stretching out behind it like the bushy tail of an animal. The aircraft features infrared above its radar, a number of other unexplained antennas, and an area along the top of the plane that can be removed and replaced to make room for extra sensors or a satellite communication system. Although the aircraft's current purpose is not clearly established, its history is well known. It was one of 19 737-200 aircraft acquired by the US Air Force starting in 1973, collectively under the name T-43, nicknamed Gator, short for Navigator. The aircraft that would become RAT-55 served, like the rest of the T-43s, as a navigational training aircraft, working with Air Force trainee technicians from 1974 all the way through to 1997. It was eventually retired, shipped off to America's great aircraft cemetery, the Boneyard, and it languished there in the hot desert sun for about 2 years. Then, it was dragged out of storage, taken off to whatever organization was responsible for its one-of-a-kind refit, and then returned to service, taking its first flight in its new iteration on the 21st of March, 2001. So that's what we know about RAT-55, but it doesn't tell us much about what the aircraft actually does or why it's important. And to answer that, we'll start with the 3 words that the acronym RAT, R-A-T, is believed, albeit not confirmed, to stand for: Radar Airborne Testbed. That first word, radar, not a terribly big surprise for experts who know what they're looking at, as the great big bulge on the front and back ends of the aircraft, they're radomes, each housing a radar apparatus, presumably to cast a radar field of view out in front and behind of the aircraft. It's not known for sure, but either or both of these radar systems might feature a so-called agile sensor, one that can be steered to point its field of view in certain directions over a much wider so-called field of regard. As for why RAT-55 would have such an unusual radar setup, with the size of the radomes perhaps indicating the substantial power of that radar, the origins of the aircraft are thought to trace back to Lockheed Martin's Advanced Prototype Center. According to GlobalSecurity.com, in the year 2000, the Advanced Prototype Center sent a, quote, flight-worthy composite structure to a company called Denmar, based in Lawton, Oklahoma. That company works primarily with stealth technology, and it's led by a former engineer of Lockheed's Skunk Works, Dennis Overholser. The apparatus that Lockheed Martin sent to Denmar was a fairing and a bulkhead assembly, so a streamlined outer structure with internal compartments measuring 19 feet long, 6 feet in diameter. That assembly, in turn, was meant to fit inside the rear fuselage of a modified Boeing 737-200. Denmar would build a total of 4 radomes, each of them at least 6.5 feet in diameter and at least 9 feet long, all seemingly intended to work as part of RAT-55. What these radar fixtures are thought to allow RAT-55 to do is to take very detailed images of their targets using so-called synthetic aperture radar. That's a kind of radar mapping you've probably seen before. It provides three-dimensional reconstructions of objects at a high resolution. Now, RAT-55 appears to feature infrared detection devices of a similar power, and if functioning properly, both tools should be able to work together and provide a clear picture of whatever RAT-55's beams are pointed at. And the relevance of those capabilities should become very clear when we consider the area of warfighting where the US Air Force holds an advantage that no adversary can currently hope to match: stealth aircraft. It's not an accident that RAT-55 is so frequently spotted alongside one of America's most critical stealth aircraft, the B-2 Spirit. Indeed, RAT-55's job is almost certainly to take pictures of those stealth aircraft, and to do it with such precision at such a high resolution that it can capture details that no other radar installation would be able to see. Because it can fly in front of or behind these stealth aircraft, it can beam them with radar from angles that ground sensors would never be able to achieve, and it can use its radomes and other sensors on both the front and the rear of the aircraft to take detailed imagery of both the front and the back of these stealth aircraft while flying alongside them, instead of trying to take as much data as possible during a rushed head-to-head flyby. And when it comes to the final image that RAT-55 is probably trying to get, well, we suspect that the Air Force would prefer that the plane and its operators can see nothing at all. For RAT-55 to fly so close to these stealth aircraft with such powerful onboard imaging technology means that the people on board have the ability to take a closer and more detailed look at these stealth aircraft using radar and infrared technology than any person or nation on Earth ever should. So, if those stealth aircraft can fly before or behind RAT-55, have their picture taken innumerable times, and have very little, if anything, show up for the operators on board, then it's highly unlikely that anything else on Earth would be able to get a clearer picture. Now, for those well accustomed to our aircraft episodes here on Mega Projects, this is about the time when we typically deliver a rundown of an aircraft's specs, so we'll try and do the same here in the areas we're able to. Given the documented tip-to-tail length of the modified line of Boeing 737-200s from which RAT-55 was adapted, plus an estimated protrusion past the tail of the aircraft of about 15 feet and a short protrusion up front, which we'll estimate to be about 8 feet, we expect that the RAT-55 measures roughly 123 feet or 37.5 meters tip-to-tail. The wingspan is probably about the same as any other T-43 at 93 feet or 28 meters, although it's not inconceivable that the wings could have been lengthened a bit or had their profile changed to add a bit of lift to compensate for the added weight at the front and aft radomes. The aircraft can hit top speeds of around 586 miles per hour, 943 kilometers per hour, meaning that it's able to keep up with supersonic jet fighters like the F-22 and F-35 and fly alongside the B-2 Spirit, as well as other delta-wing stealth aircraft in America's current and future arsenal. The T-43 and probably RAT-55 feature an endurance of 6 hours in flight, powered by a pair of Pratt & Whitney JT8D9A turbofans, with recent imagery indicating that the RAT-55 either has kept those engines or has replaced them with something similar. As for what goes on inside the aircrafts, we couldn't tell you, but the standard T-43 flew with a pilot and a co-pilot and had seats for 19 people on board, mostly trainees using equipment housed inside. So that's the secretive, ill-defined, and still poorly understood aircraft known as RAT-55. But why is it so important? Why must its capabilities be kept so secret? What is the actual modern-day relevance of its instruments? And why is it so important to keep around when America's stealth aircraft have each flown for decades now? Well, at its most basic, RAT-55's strengths are in that up-close, in-flight imaging capability that we spoke about earlier. While America's stealth aircraft can be seen with the naked eye, they should be nearly invisible to radar and infrared detection systems. That's the entire point of having them in America's arsenal, so that they can skate past enemy aircraft and air defenses and start causing chaos in areas where American planes are not supposed to be. What RAT-55 is able to do is achieve a level of imaging clarity that should be basically unmatched. Even if, say, China were able to successfully intercept an American F-22 with its own stealth fighter, the J-20 Mighty Dragon, and get very close to it, that J-20's onboard radar likely wouldn't hold a candle to the ability of RAT-55 to image that airplane. Extend that difference in capability to less advanced aircraft flying with less advanced onboard radar, or extend it to ground-based air defense systems, and RAT-55's abilities are even more superior. To put it simply, if RAT-55 can't see your stealth aircraft, nothing can. Now, the degree to which RAT-55 can see stealth aircraft, that's anyone's guess, but it's likely that at such close range with such powerful equipment, it can see those aircraft a whole lot more clearly than most radar infrared systems could. That may be especially true as RAT-55 examines aircraft from angles other than their head-on profile, where they're meant to be at their very stealthiest. Side or rear view attempts to use radar imaging on stealth aircraft have a significantly better chance of success than front-facing views, so it's likely that at least from those angles, the data that RAT-55's operators are receiving doesn't just indicate that the sky is empty. That level of imaging capability provides two key advantages to RAT-55's operators. First, it offers a whole lot of peace of mind when evaluating the performance of its stealth aircraft. If certain stealth aircraft profiles or details show up hazily or not at all for RAT-55, then it's extremely unlikely that any other nation is going to get a clear view. And since RAT-55 is probably carrying very powerful radar and infrared tools, the highest possible quality data that it does capture can be scaled and adjusted down to match what other aircraft or radar installations are capable of. For that reason, RAT-55's primary task seems to be to conduct full evaluations of stealth aircraft from all possible angles, pointing out potential problem areas, clearing the most effective stealth profiles of any concern, and giving the sort of data that would allow the US Air Force to extrapolate. Once the Air Force gets RAT-55's data, they'll be able to conduct much better and more accurate evaluations of what a friendly or adversarial system will be able to see, like the Russian S-300 air defense system, for example, or a modern airborne early warning and control aircraft like the E-7 Wedgetail or Beriev A-100. Taking into account the expected strength of those systems, the Air Force can then evaluate what they'll be able to see, drawing on the comparison case of RAT-55, which provides about as close to a perfect a view as any global radar system is likely to get. Once American military planners have a clear idea of what an adversary can see, they gain a major upper hand in strategic and tactical planning. If they know that, say, a nation that uses S-300s can see an incoming stealth aircraft if it gets within, say, 15 kilometers, then once the US can pinpoint the location of those S-300s, they'll be able to thread the needle and put together a flight path for stealth aircraft that will keep them away from certain danger areas. They can also put together plans for stealth aircraft pilots to stay hidden when something goes wrong mid-mission. If, for example, people on the ground hear an unexplained plane overhead at night and an adversary scrambles a certain fighter jet to intercept, then the data collected from RAT-55 will be able to provide a plan for the stealth aircraft in question to deal with the radar and infrared detection capabilities of those fighters and their weapons. If the fighters in question only have front-facing radar, for example, which most of them rely on, but RAT-55 has shown that this American stealth plane is all but undetectable from the front, then its pilots know to fly straight shot at the fighter jets coming to hunt them down and slip by without ever being spotted. If RAT-55's data shows that this stealth aircraft can't handle what those fighters are carrying head-on, then it gives that stealth aircraft's pilots and their commanding officers plenty of time to work out escape methods in advance and remain undetected when it counts. The continual use of RAT-55, including with aircraft like the B-2 Spirit, whose contours and stealth profiles are almost certainly well understood by now, suggests another key function: to check and sweep over these aircraft when they've had repairs or work done to make sure that everything is in the right place. If a certain screw wasn't covered up properly and risks pinging radar back to its source if targeted, then that screw should show up as an impossible to miss point of radar return for the instruments on RAT-55. When it's not working to ensure that repairs and regular maintenance were successful, RAT-55 may participate in experiments and evaluations on new technologies like experimental radar-absorbent coatings or a new sensor bubble on stealth aircraft meant to blend in seamlessly with the rest of its profile. And RAT-55's most important mission of all, in an era of rapid air power developments around the world, might have little or nothing to do with the stealth aircraft already in service. Instead, RAT-55 is the perfect tool to test America's future stealth aircraft, of which there are a wide range thought to be in active development. Almost certainly, RAT-55 has had a close look at the B-21 Raider, the eventual replacement for the B-2 Spirit. It's probably had encounters with the flying prototypes of the NGAD, the Next Generation Air Dominance program meant to provide the United States with an ultra-advanced fighter jet. A full-scale NGAD technology demonstrator and 3 separate prototypes are known to have flown at this time. RAT-55 will likely have worked with stealth drones like the RQ-180, an aircraft the US government has still never acknowledged. The US Navy's F/A-XX, its own ultra-advanced fighter, may have been evaluated as well, and so too could RAT-55 have gotten a look at prototypes for America's Law Wingman program expected to field drones that will fly and fight alongside manned aircraft in the decades to come. RAT-55's operating locations at Area 51 and Area 52 suggest that it's likely in close proximity to all sorts of experimental aircraft, and we can only imagine what sorts of other advanced designs RAT-55's pilots have seen. As far as we in the public domain can tell, there is only one RAT-55 aircraft, although it's not impossible that the US Air Force could be hiding multiple copies under the same call sign. But regardless of whether RAT-55 is a unique aircraft or a small line of them, the fact remains that the thing RAT-55 is truly one of a kind. It's not a stealth aircraft, and it'll never garner the acclaim of the B-2 or the F-22 or any of the upcoming technologies the world will someday see, but it is the key to America's stealth programs, and those programs are themselves the key to American air dominance around the world. Whatever that elusive, mysterious RAT-55 does, it is the linchpin that holds together America's entire stealth air fleet. Thank you for watching.